So thank you for inviting me. It's an honour to be here because we've received a lot of money over the years from the foundation, and I've worked with a lot of you. So it's so nice to see everybody here and some of our funders and meet you individually and the trustees. So thank you. I'm a bit nervous because those of you that do know me know I like to talk about spreadsheets and funding and all those kinds of things, business management. And tonight Sue gave me the brief of could I specifically talk about what we actually do on the front line. And for those that also know me, I'm very happy on the front line, working with parents all the time and working with the children. But talking about it, I might get a bit emotional because the work we do is just so special. So I am going to talk a little bit about the formal stuff as we start. So a lot of you do know about us, but we're a charity and we started in 1970. We were created by a paediatrician and a speech and language therapist who, at that time, there was no education or early years education for children with additional needs. They were just a lost generation. But at that time, as we know, there wasn't much nursery education anyway. There wasn't a lot of early years. And it certainly wasn't statutory, and it isn't statutory now. Statutory education only starts at the age of 4 to 5. So it's always been the poor relation, as Bill in the room knows. When I sit at any meeting, I'm there lobbying for early years, and you have to listen to me a lot, don't you? Don't forget early years, so, and specifically children with special educational needs. So what's particularly difficult at the moment as well is that because of the underfunding nationally with early years, nurseries are going out of business. Now I will put my business hat on. Basic wage has risen by nearly 60-70% over the last 7 years, and our hourly rate that we receive has gone up by 5%. So really, you don't have to be a mathematician to realise that it is really difficult for nurseries, which makes it even more difficult for children who have special educational needs, because they're the children that the remainder of the nurseries really can't cope with. So the numbers that we're taking in now and trying to accommodate have gone up by nearly 100% in the last year. So it is particularly a tough time and very challenging. The nurseries that are closing as well are tending to be the community nurseries and the ones that were in the village halls and the churches, lovely experienced people who, in small spaces where the children, if they did have quite low-level additional needs, could actually do really well and thrive. But they've gone, and a lot of them are being replaced with large classrooms that children who have a lot of sensory needs can't cope with. So there is a little bit of a storm brewing, but we're there lobbying. The big challenges we've faced since COVID is the impact on parents. So now a lot of the work, or I would say it's 50-50. We're good at what we do. I'm proud to stand up and say what we do is excellent, and we offer early intervention for children from birth to 5. But the work we're doing with parents now is absolutely vital because they feel left out. They're the people that have missed out, and they're really lost in bureaucracy. We know our colleagues, professional colleagues, occupational therapists, speech and language therapists, all those services that parents use, paediatricians. You're not talking 3-4 weeks now, you're talking a year, as we all know, or even longer. So again, we provide that support that they'll get as soon as they walk through the door. So if we have an 18-month-old, or even from birth, where we work with our children's group, they will get that support from the moment they arrive with us. And the whole team are specialists and absolutely committed. So this is the bit where I kind of jump out of my comfort zone, and I'll talk about a child that I knew from birth, and we quite often have children who come in who have absolutely really severe complex needs, and often the diagnosis isn't good and the prognosis isn't good. And with that, We're just there to support, and we have a lovely sensory room, and they can come in and they can sit with one of the team, they can sit with me, and we just talk for a couple of hours maximum. The team of professionals around the child, we'll call Lucy, and obviously not her name, came to me and said, we think, this could be the time. We can bring her along. So I said, all right, come on, let's go in. So Mum came, and she started off, and it started off at 10 minutes. And after a year, we'd got up to an hour. So Mum would come in, sit, still stay with Lucy, still not at that point where she felt that she wanted to leave her. But that word trust comes into it. And just after a year, Mum was absolutely willing to trust us with Lucy. And she was doing really well. Now, that's an example of we have to fund that, because from the point of view of someone sitting with a mum all the time, that's not the same as having someone in a nursery of a ratio of 1 to 8 children. So the funding that we get from the foundation, part of that went to covering our staff costs. But the reason I tell this specific story, because the next stage of the story is even more specific, and that's where luckily we were able to get some money to fund our own speech and language therapist last year for 1 morning a week. That was all it was, 1 morning a week, and the impact is incredible. So just for this little one, Lucy, I can give a story where and Angela was the speech and language therapist, so I often used to film like Sue's filming, and she'd say, come in, Kim, come in, you've got to come and see this, you've got to come and see this. So I'd go in with the camera, and I'd be sitting there, and this little one, who really was complex, blind, weren't sure how good his hearing her hearing was, and physical difficulties, was lying on the floor, and Angela was doing her stuff, and she was singing at the top of her heart, and at the end of it, we have something that we use called a switch, which is a big button, which then it encourages children, if they want something else, if you want more, you press the button. So Angela had been singing and singing, and this had been going on for about 15 minutes. She was, Kim, it's going to work, it is going to work. Okay, so we sat there, so she just sang this song, and at the end of every song, she'd pick up the little hand and she'd just press, she'd go, again, and she'd press the button. And so this went on and went on. At the end of the half an hour, she did it, and she said again, but she didn't put her hand on the button. And all of a sudden, this little hand came out. And she was looking around. Well, she wasn't looking, she was feeling, because she knew where Angela had been taking her hand to. And she pressed the button. And from there, we knew that this child could communicate. And I was phoning Mum up saying, you've got to go, you won't believe what's just happened. Now, we can only do that with the support that we had through Angela, because it's that one-to-one support. But it doesn't stop there, because what Angela does, she then works with Mum. She works with Dad. She works with the extended family. She then worked with the key worker. She then works with, we have people come in for other nurseries who we have dual placements with, so she will then support them as well. So in terms of value for money, got my business head back on, always there. In terms of value for money and the number of people we can reach with what in theory just seems like a little piece of money for a speech and language therapist, the extent that knowledge and that training is being shared is absolutely incredible. So from there, this little one has gone on to specialist education, but that was really the first breakthrough that we'd had. And from there, we knew that there were certain things that Lucy could access. So that's my story for tonight. No more. I promised, and that's the reason I have paper, because I normally go off-piste, so I'm not going to do that. But I'd just like to say a huge thank you to everybody who's involved in Somerset Community Foundation, from the volunteers, the parents, the children, and our trustees, to you. And thank you for asking me to speak tonight.